Hello, America. Tonight, unexplained drone sightings, wildfires in California, Epstein, P. Diddy, Ukraine. Okay, well, actually, maybe a little more on some of these things, a little less on others, but they all have one theme, and that's what we're going for tonight. One thing in common. They're all lies. We're being lied to on all of them. And this is just the beginning. Thank heavens we are only 5 days away from the fundamental transformation of the United States of America, as Barack Obama once said. We are 5 days away from Donald Trump. He has an enormous task ahead of him, and perhaps the biggest obstacle that we need to conquer needs to begin on day one, and that is restoring transparency and the accountability to the United States government. Rule number one, when considering all the things that just don't seem to add up, is the understanding of this one thing. The government is probably lying to you. It doesn't make sense that Epstein was connected to all these people, powerful people, evaded jail for so long. And then when he finally did go to jail, security cameras went down, guards were gone, and a suicide happened with a paper sheet. All right, is it possible? Sure. What's more probable? The government is lying to you. How does the Biden crime family continue to get away with what appears to be massive money laundering and corruption? Well, the government has been and is still probably lying to you about it. Unfortunately, those statements apply for almost every political argument that is ripping this country apart. Inflation, the economy, censorship, the environment, Kennedy, the assassination on Kennedy, all of it. Now, if you call attention to any of these things, you're called a conspiracy theorist or far right. This is a global phenomenon. I don't know if you've been seeing what's been going on in other countries recently. Have you been watching what's going on in Romania right now? Protests are erupting all over the government's decision to void their recent election because they didn't like the outcome. So the government just said, well, we got to do that over again. What? What actually happened? As I tell you, see if any of this sounds at all familiar. Here's the candidate. This guy came out virtually from nowhere and then won. All the polls said he'd get less than 10% of the vote. The polls, the elites, the media, they all gave his chance of success virtually at zero. Well, what do we know about him? Actually, not a lot. We know that he's a vocal Christian. He's a supporter of the Romanian Orthodox Church. Oh, my. We know that he questioned NATO. That can't happen. He's questioned the EU. He's questioned Ukraine. He's questioned COVID-19. He's questioned climate change. Yeah. He also apparently, the media in his opposition has dubbed him a Russian lover. Sound familiar? They also claimed that he was far right and claimed that his social media campaign was being manipulated by a foreign actor. Dare I say it, that foreign actor? Russia. Are we talking about Romania still? I don't know everything there is to know about this guy, but I do know that this all feels like deja vu all over again. A political figure stands up, questions the establishment, calls for transparency and accountability. They push back on the technocratic order, and the wolves come out from the mountains. If Donald Trump and his administration are to be successful, get ready for a whole buttload of more of this. The need for transparency and accountability is contagious, but the old way of doing things will not give up without a massive fight. We need to be backing this historic change everywhere. Anytime we see something that doesn't make sense, anytime where the government begins sneaking away from all accountability through their cover-ups and their lies, that should point our attention right there. We should give no excuses to what's happening in California right now. Let me recap quickly. As of Monday, 25 people have been killed. Over 12,000 structures have been damaged or destroyed. Some are estimating that when it's finally over, it could be the costliest wildfire in American history. The entire country, obviously, has a few questions. But are we ever getting answers? Rather than work the problem and ensure it doesn't happen again, we have Governor Newsom, who's concerned about, watch.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well.
Yeah, misinformation. And Joe Biden just said, I agree. Really? That's the problem? Misinformation? It's not the years of deforestation neglect. It's not this leaked memo that shows how Mayor Karen Bass demanded her fire department cut an extra $49 million just a week before the fires began. It seems like there's a bit of media gymnastics over where the budget was or where it should have been. But I'm curious. Does the Los Angeles fire chief think about the city's support for her department? What if she does? What does she think about it?
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
Is this part of that misinformation that Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden were worried about? Is she lying now? How about the fire hydrants in the Palisades that ran out of water? How does that happen in a location like Los Angeles, known for wildfires? Maybe, now just maybe, and I'm guessing here, but maybe it didn't help the situation that a major LA water reservoir was drained and unavailable. That's gotta be misinformation, right? The stuff that Newsom's talking about, no way that's true. Here he is addressing the water reservoirs on Meet the Press. Listen to this.
I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation to understand what was happening with that local reservoir.
Wow, misinformation. All the reservoirs are full. Well, actually, sir, the one over the hill here was drained. Yeah, well, I know, but I'm investigating that one. Oh, I think I begin to see a pattern. First, disaster. Then you get the lies and confusing talk all the way. And along this process, you get the inevitable finger pointing. It's not me. It's those deranged right-wing influencers and their pals with Scooby-Doo. Now, I haven't even talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion yet. How the International Association of Fire Chiefs instructed not to use the term fireman, instead use fire officer, because it's more gender inclusive that way. I don't care what you call the person that's going to put out the fire. Can you put out the fire? How about California's Department of Water Resources made DEI one of their main focus points in 2022? Part of the plan was to identify structural racism and embed racial equality when implementing the projects. I don't know. Was everybody on an equity basis when they drained the reservoir? And who was responsible for that? And if you really want to know what Los Angeles fire leadership was focused on, here's the deputy chief to break it all down.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
Wow.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
I mean, what? Really? How dare you get mixed up in a fire? It's your fault. Let him die, I say. Okay. That's great. And I really don't care. When I see the fire truck pull up and my house is on fire, I don't look at, wait, is there a white guy that can understand? My house is on fire. Can you put it out? I mean, I think we all speak English, mostly. Put the fire out. I don't need to relate to you. But don't worry, Californians. When all this is finally contained, I'm sure the Los Angeles Insurance Commissioner will have better talking points than the Los Angeles Deputy Fire Chief. Well, here's what you can expect. Ricardo Lara is on the case. He is proudly declaring himself he's the first openly LGBTQ plus statewide elected official. And I think that is fabulous, because what's important when it comes to massive insurance claims? What's your sexuality? What is your pronoun? Well, I can see he, him, his. It's also very important to know, in the off chance your home is going to be burned to the ground, what his pronouns are. Okay, look, nothing's going to change, even with Trump getting in, if we do not demand transparency, demand accountability on all of it, all across the country, from our local to our state to our federal government, and never let them off the hook. It begins day one, hopefully day one of the next administration. And coincidentally, Donald Trump promises to expose another mystery on actually day two. He said, give me one day. We'll pick it up there next. If pain is affecting your life the way it used to affect mine, maybe your resolution for the year 2025 should be make 2025 the year of feeling good again. I used to suffer from terrible pain in my hands for years. It got so bad I thought I was going to have to quit my job. I'd never write. I like to write with paper and pencil. I'd never paint again. Then I discovered something that gave me my life back, and it could give your life back if you give it a chance. Relief Factor. It's a daily supplement that helps your body fight pain by fighting inflammation, which is the source of most of our pain in our bodies and a lot of our disease. It's 100% drug-free, developed by doctors to help reduce or eliminate pain. And over 1 million people have tried Relief Factor. 70% of them go on to order it again and again, month after month. Why? Well, maybe because it makes you feel better? Try it. Trying Relief Factor is the easy part. Get the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF. ReliefFactor.com. Secrecy, government silence, lies. They all have consequences, and we're living through them. Sometimes they are tragic, and they are deadly. Over the holidays, the news broke of a Cybertruck explosion in front of the Trump Hotel in Vegas, and it sparked fears of terrorism. We looked for information, any information at all, in the wake of the tragic act. As usual, we didn't get much. We knew he was a Green Beret, heavily decorated, but there was nothing official as to what his motive was until the Sean Ryan podcast. A retired Army intelligence officer was contacted by the suspect. A manifesto was sent, and that information was released on Sean's podcast. It ended up forcing law enforcement's hand, and the entire country was able to read and draw their own conclusions. This never happens, and I commend Sean for forcing transparency. All the details around this case will probably never be known, and I'm not going to speculate on all of the different theories, but I do want to highlight what the suspect said was his motivation. This is a screenshot of the original email and manifesto. He was concerned about 2 national security issues. 1, drones utilizing gravitic propulsion. He said he had knowledge of another event in Afghanistan that was also troubling. Can I see him having knowledge of the Afghanistan event? Yes, but drones with gravitic propulsion? I mean, I'm not going to speculate whether he actually had knowledge of those things or not. Either he did or he didn't, and he was a heavily decorated combat veteran, but he was also disturbed by PTSD and or traumatic brain injury. But he was clearly someone who had dedicated his life to national security and that of his country. And he was bothered by the lack of transparency on 2 big issues that he felt the government wasn't disclosing. And there's a lot of issues. So let's take one. What's going on with all these drones? legitimate enough topic. Even Donald Trump said he'd make the disclosure of what's really happening one of his top priorities.
You thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey? There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me.
One day into the administration, that's next Tuesday, he said, I'm going to disclose what's happening with these mysterious drone sightings. Then, as he turned, he went on to call out multiple governors who all agreed that they've had sightings near nuclear reactors or over nuclear reactors, military bases, and infrastructure. Joe Biden stated that there was nothing nefarious going on with any of these drones, like the ones spotted over New Jersey. And this tracks with the usual government narrative lately on unidentified aerial phenomena. Yes, they're there, but don't worry about it, all's good. Well, if we don't know what they are, how do we know that everything is okay? Now, I'm guessing spaceships didn't come down with the little green and red light on each side. But before we broke for Christmas, drone sightings in New Jersey and elsewhere had risen to over 5,000. Now, out of all of those sightings, around 100 were deemed credible, at least credible enough to warrant more investigation. That's per a statement from the FBI, Homeland Security, the FAA, and the Department of Defense. So wait. It's all good, but we don't know what or where 100 flying objects in the sky came from. I don't know. That kind of worries me. I mean, I'm not a Green Beret, that has dedicated my life to the defense of the country. But the lack of full disclosure from my government on this issue is a little terrifying, just a little bit. I'm hoping that they're all ours. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. What is the government hiding from us? Why are they hiding it? Clearly something's going on. These things exist. We're not talking about some random dude taking blurry pictures out in a wheat field. We're talking about pilots, U.S. Navy pilots, encountering them while flying over our airspace. Check this out from Scott Bray. He's the Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence. During testimony in front of Congress, here's what he said.
There have been no collisions between any U.S. assets and one of these UAPs, correct?
We have not had a collision. We've had at least 11 near misses, though.
Wait, what? What? I mean, that sounds like a problem. These things exist. We don't know what they are. And, our planes, our military pilots, they've almost collided with them at least 11 times. Are these things foreign? Are they ours? And if they're above, the classified areas of the country, isn't that a problem? Is everything classified above everybody's head? Where are they from? Whatever the answer, we just all know we're not being told the entire truth. And in 5 days, the fundamental transformation of America is supposed to begin. And in 5 days, that means we have to have accountability and some answers. Gravitic propulsion and alternative technology has been hidden from the American public since the turn of the 20th century. A book written by a doctorate in both systems science and physics claimed the government had been working on gravitic propulsion using research from people like Nikola Tesla and Thomas Brown. Now, you can go to the FBI vault and view the seized research papers that the FBI took after Tesla died. But there's one small problem. Out of the 80 trunks of Tesla's research found and seized, only 60 were ever turned over and declassified. What's in the other 20 trunks? And just a little side note, Tesla's research was given to the head of research at MIT to look over. This is the correspondence, a letter that was from him, and it was included in the declassified document disclosure from the FBI. I just want you to take a gander at the name. John G. Trump, the uncle of the 45th and 47th president of the United States. The other man credited for gravitic propulsion was Thomas Brown. His work was actually talked about in this article in The Guardian over 20 years ago. By the early 1950s, Brown had created platforms that could supposedly hover and rotate. And we know that published research references gravitic technology and that companies like Honda and government organizations like NASA and the Army Research Lab were working on it. We've also found documentation that we're still trying to verify that the U.S. Navy was also working on it. So why do I bring all of this up? Well, clearly the government has been interested in the kind of technology that it's being described with some of these drones and UAPs. But it's been over 50 years since Project Blue Book had any attempt by Congress to get any kind of transparency on it. The mystery just went silent until a few years ago. Take a look at just some of the official sources that are addressing these unidentified objects in the sky. Here's former CIA director, gotta love him, John Brennan.
I think some of the phenomena we might be seeing continues to be unexplained and might in fact be some type of phenomenon that is the result of something that we don't yet understand and that could involve some type of activity that some might say constitutes a different form of life.
Okay, what is it you know that we don't know? It goes on. Former Air Force intelligence officer who was the Inspector General, he said, this is credible. He claimed the U.S. government had recovered UFOs and that they had crashed and that we had alien bodies. Credible source. An official congressional law now includes reporting mechanisms for the recovery of unidentified anomalous phenomena, including the reverse engineering of such a craft or competent technology. And now, for the first time ever, you can find procedures for unidentified phenomena in the actual National Defense Authorization Act. This is official United States law right now. The government is seemingly all over this, but I don't know what's real and what's not. Do you? You cannot run a country like this. There's even an official report and analysis from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence where the UAP craft is described as having unusual movement patterns or flight characteristics and without discernible means of propulsion. Maybe you mean like gravitic propulsion? One of the real heroes in today's world is Michael Shellenberger. He recently testified in front of Congress after receiving a whistleblower report on a secret government program called the Immaculate Constellation. Shellenberger released the full report on X, and it is wild. It describes a government initiative to watch UAPs, identify the technology that had been reproduced from the craft, and also conceal the information from as many people as possible. Forget Project Blue Book from the 1950s. What's happening right now is earth-shattering. But the question remains, why is the government hiding this information from us? Is that what's in the air of New Jersey? Is this technology from an other world? Is it from China? Is it ours? And we're safeguarding state secrets? Why? I think we're giving people to question our government even more. Michael Shellenberger joins us next. All right, so we won the election. That's great news, but it's really only the start of our journey, not the end of it. We have to rebuild our nation, turn it back into what made it great in the first place. Part of that means continuing to build the parallel economy we've all been building here for years. I want you to consider switching your cell service over to Patriot Mobile. They're a vital part of the parallel economy. They're America's only Christian conservative mobile company. Their mission is to passionately defend our God-given constitutional rights and freedoms and to glorify God always. They do that by offering great nationwide coverage, dependable coverage with access to all three major networks. So you'll have the same coverage that you're on without sending money to all the leftist causes. And their customer service is, I believe, better than everybody else. That all sounds pretty good to me. I don't know about you. Oh, did I mention you're going to save a lot of money? right now. Go to patriotmobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT. Get a free month of service with the promo code Beck. Switch to Patriot Mobile today. Defend freedom with every call and text you make. patriotmobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT. In the atmosphere we now find ourselves in, secrets, lies, political manipulation, is becoming harder and harder to find real truth tellers. Who do you trust? Forget the politics, forget the maneuvering. What is actually happening? Who is lying? Who is telling the truth? My guest tonight has made it his mission to expose everything that he can. He gathers whistleblowers on topics the media won't even try and touch. And you probably see him testifying, it seems a lot, in front of Congress on a variety of topics like government censorship and even unidentified flying objects. You can find Michael Shellenberger's work on Public. It's a Substack that he founded. Michael, as always, great to have you. You know, I can't help but think that you ran for governor, and so did Caruso, ran for Los Angeles mayor. How different do you think things would have been if you were governor and he was mayor?
Well, hey, it's great to be with you, Glenn. It's a pleasure to be back on. I mean, look, we were focused on civilization. I mean, that's why I ran, is I was worried that a very radical, extreme ideology was threatening the pillars of civilization, by which we know are freedom of speech, law and order, blind justice, equal justice under the law, not being racist,
right.
Not hiring people on the basis of race. So we were obsessed with those, the material, the physical reality of our lives, which depends on making sure you have enough firefighters, making sure the reservoirs are full of water, making sure you're keeping the forests so they don't have catastrophic high-intensity fires, making sure your electrical grid has plenty of backup power. The basics. I mean, that's, if you love humanity, and you must love civilization, and that's where our focus would have been. I mean, that's what we wanted to repair. So, look, you're always going to have fires. I mean, that's just an inevitability. The issue is you need to be prepared to prevent them from becoming catastrophic. And obviously that was a huge focus of both Rick Caruso's and mine.
Well, they were saying that, Newsom was saying there's nothing they could do, although we now know that the issue to go out and be prepared and be on site before a fire started wasn't taken because they wanted to cut money from the budget and they didn't want to spend it on overtime. Whose short-sighted decision was that?
It's really incredible. I mean, obviously for a big disaster like this, you have multiple points of failure that occurred. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, their second biggest water reservoir was completely empty.
Who did
Apparently, for at least a year or more, they had to fix a tear in the cover, but there was never any reason to empty it of water, particularly during fire season. And, the repair is not supposed to take more than a couple of weeks. It shouldn't be that hard. It's just sealing up a tear on the cover. But they certainly could have allowed the tear to exist. The water would no longer be potable, but that's fine. They could have used it for backup. The first warning from the National Weather Service of extremely dangerous fire conditions was on January 2nd. Mm-hmm. January 3rd, they issued another warning. January 4th, Mayor Bass flies to Ghana on a vanity junket. Governor Gavin Newsom should have called out the National Guard at that moment. He should have they should have mobilized fire engines to the fire dangerous areas. They should have had C-130s circling, prepared to put out a fire right away. They should have had helicopters circling. The chief of staff to Governor Schwarzenegger from 20 years ago told me that that's what they would do. When they were expecting a fire, they would mobilize as though the fire were happening. Look, Glenn, it's going to be a $200 or $250 billion disaster. You could have spent $100 million at a minimum to prevent it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's what Ron DeSantis does with tornadoes and hurricanes. You hear a hurricane is coming, he pre-positions everybody, so just in case it is that bad, they're ready to go. That's what you do if you're a governor of a state, but they didn't. And I tell you, Michael, I've heard the argument out of Congress that there needs to be strings to all the money that we give to California. I don't want strings. I want absolute transparency on where every dollar is going. They've proven that they are not good stewards of people's cash. And I don't think the people who caused this problem should be the ones doling out the money.
I mean, Glenn, it's as everybody knows, I mean, it's a phenomenally wealthy state. This is California. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. It's on the cusp of overtaking Germany at any moment as the 4th largest economy in the world. We have the highest taxes of any state, highest income taxes, highest sales taxes, among the highest corporate taxes. There's so much money. I mean, in some ways, that's the problem. There's too much money, and they become distracted by it. They sort of invent these alternative religions. So, we just did a piece today, $41.5 billion every year just on homelessness, climate change, and migrants. That doesn't count the cost of the half of all fire calls going to putting out fires set by the homeless. It doesn't count the emergency services, people being revived from overdoses 10, 20, 30 times, barbarically being put back on the streets. So this is it's a state that's lost its way. It's, the edge of our civilization. I think it's very symbolic and profound. The City of Angels defunded their angels, the ones that are supposed to prevent the fires and save lives. We saw a video go out from the deputy fire chief. You'd be forgiven if you thought it was a parody, an AI parody, where she said, people ask me, can you carry my husband out of a fire? And she said, well, your husband got himself in the wrong place. I mean, this is a violation of firefighter ethics.
Right.
It's practically violating the Hippocratic Oath as a firefighter. And she sort of said it with an extreme entitlement. This is a state that's been obsessed with enforcing really grotesque racial hierarchies, and that are basically based on revenge and envy and resentment. So this is what you get when you teach your children that Western civilization is evil, that the Enlightenment values are evil, that that we should let Malibu burn, in the headline of a famous article by one of the most celebrated radical left writers in Los Angeles history. This is what you get when you hate the civilization that gave you everything.
Let me ask you, Michael. A lot of people have asked me if this will be the wake-up call for Californians, and I've often said the attitude of an alcoholic in recovery is going to save the nation. You have to first admit there's a problem. Are they going to admit this is a problem with the way they voted? Or are these guys just going to be able to hang on and continue to do what they're doing? There's got to be a turning point, or it's death. When you can only go so far before DEI becomes DIE. Is this a turning point?
I certainly hope so. I think it has to be. And I also support moves to put some restrictions on this money. I mean, why would the American taxpayer want to rebuild a city that appears intent on burning itself down?
Right.
By defunding the fire department, by not filling its reservoirs with water, by not clearing its forests of debris, by not clearing vegetation from around electrical wires, from around houses, by defunding the fire hardening of homes. This is what you get when you teach an anti-human ideology to people, and you get people that really don't care about civilization and really care about themselves and care about their own vanity and narcissism and wanting to hobnob with the next president of Ghana as though that's more important than the people of Los Angeles. So it's been a big lie. You do start to see a few celebrities coming out. Justine Bateman from Family Ties, Whitney Cummings, who's one of our great stand-up comedians, speaking out. I think you'll start to see some other celebrities. But I mean, the neighborhoods that burned down, these are the neighborhoods that voted and funded Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass. They had this incredible opportunity to elect a mayor in Rick Caruso, and I just watched voters in focus groups say they didn't want to vote for a white male. He literally has a video still on X talking about how we need to increase the fire budget. So I don't know what else, between that video and selfies of Karen Bass, at cocktail parties in Ghana as Los Angeles is burning, I'm not sure what else you need to know who should be in power and who shouldn't.
All right, Michael, we're going to take a quick break. I want to continue our conversation as we go forward on some other things that are happening in the country that you are kind of at the center of, and try to gauge some sense from you. Are things going to change? Are things going to change? It's going to be interesting to watch. Back with Michael Shellenberger in just a minute. All right, you've heard us talk about, the despicable crime the FBI calls house stealing. It's home title fraud. It's one of the fastest growing in the country. If you own a home or any property, your title, your hard-earned equity are at serious risk. It's amazing how easy this is. This fast-growing crime is a serious problem for property owners. In fact, a district attorney in California said they've known title fraud cases in his small county. They've gone from virtually none to over 73 in the past 18 months. With just one simple document, they can forge your signature, take out loans against you and your property, and wipe out your equity without you even knowing. Then you're stuck with the legal and financial nightmare. But there is a way to help stop them with triple lock protection from Home Title Lock. Triple lock is 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if God forbid the worst happens, their U.S.-based team will work fast to restore your title at no additional cost to you. And your friends at Home Title Lock have a special offer. When you sign up at HometitleLock.com right now and use the promo code Glenn, you're going to get 30 days of their triple lock protection for free. You'll also get a free little history report, and so you can make sure that you're not actually already a victim. Go to HometitleLock.com. Do it now. Use promo code Glenn. Protect your home and get equity and peace of mind today. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Glenn. Don't wait until it's too late. Michael Shellenberger is back with us. And there's several things that, you were at the center of so much. You were at the Twitter files, the center of that. Let me ask you, Zuckerberg, is he just kissing up now? Has he seen the light, or is this just something to save his butt and his company?
I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I can't see inside his heart, but definitely the moves he made, the decisions he's made are significant. So whatever his motivations are, these are big moves. He shut down the content moderation in California, moved it to Texas, which on its own is symbolic. The media has spread misinformation about the fact-checking. He did not end fact-checking. Rather, he has switched to a superior form of fact-checking, which is crowdsourced community notes as pioneered by X. It's not perfect because human beings are not perfect. It's a heck of a lot better than having a bunch of university professors in secret rooms deciding what's true or false and what you should be allowed to say online or not. That's not the American way. I think that, it's interesting when he spoke to Joe Rogan, he talked about, he's 40 years old, coming into a sense of being a man. And I think that being his own man, taking back control of his own company. Elon Musk sure gave him a hard time for a long time. And he seems to have kind of come out the end of it being a bit more manly, a little bit more like Elon, willing to say no to the woke thought police. So, look, he censored me. I'm still upset about it. Facebook censored me, and I'm still angry about it. Yeah. So, so let's see what happens. And, he's said he's going to allow news to spread more freely on Facebook. So, yeah, is it politically driven? Sure. Does he genuinely mean it? He might. Honestly, look, free speech and free enterprise go together. One of the ways that the free markets can work is that we're allowed to say what we want about different things. So it should be in his censorship should be bad for business, all else being equal. And, I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I feel like if you can save free speech, and Elon Musk has done more to do that than any American in recent history, maybe more so than anybody since our founding fathers. Yes. If you have free speech, then the civilization can correct itself. And I think that's a big part of what's happened here.
So while we're on Elon Musk, let me just ask you quickly, with what's happening over in Europe, I mean, they are just coming after him. Romania, Germany now on the ropes because they're just clamping down on these people. Do they have the hope that we have now through Elon Musk and just transparency there?
I mean, it sure looks like things are changing pretty rapidly. I mean, in Britain, you have the two conservative parties are competing over which one is the truly nationalist party. So the national turn among conservative parties is clearly a global phenomenon. In Germany, the Nationalist Conservative Party, which is known as the Alternative for Germany, or ADF, also endorsed by Elon Musk. They were surging and had big support before that. They want to restart the nuclear plants. They want to restrict migration. They want to get rid of gender ideology out of schools. That's basically the identical policy platform as Donald Trump and as the British Conservative Party. I think the French Conservative Party, the Nationalist Conservatives in France are not very different. You know, I think one thing that it's dawned on me, and I think maybe other people knew this before I did, I confess to my ignorance, is that nationalism is the enemy of totalitarianism, because nationalism is about creating strong bonds between fundamentally equal citizens in a free country. And so that's an enemy of totalitarianism, which is a globalist ideology. Totalitarianism is trying to destroy all social relations other than the ones between the individual and the state.
Right.
And a single party state. That's clearly where university professors wanted to take us, and some social media platforms and some aspects of the intelligence community, which was refreshing to hear Mark Zuckerberg acknowledge. That's clearly where a bunch of our fellow citizens wanted to go. I think, you know, when you have a chance to have that open debate, as Elon Musk allowed on X, all else being equal, people looked at their choices and they thought, I'm going to go with the pro-America, pro-freedom party. And so, you know, I think that's a good sign. It means that when people are given the choice, they choose freedom.
When you look at everything that we have to, you know, Barack Obama said in 2008, we're 5 days away from the fundamental transformation of the United States. We are now 5 days away from what I think his supporters wanted in 2008, the average American wanted. We want it again. We just want transparency. We want the truth. We want everything to be out in the open. We can deal with it. We're big enough. But there is so much now that has to come out between the Epstein and the P. Diddy and the Ukraine. And I mean, the UAPs even. I talked to, who was it today? Congressman from Florida. And she was talking to me about what she heard from you and others. And she's like, I have absolutely no idea what to believe. And Donald Trump came out last week and said, I'm going to tell everybody on Tuesday. Does he know? Is he looking? And what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. I mean, look, this is one of the most interesting topics in the world right now. I mean, first of all, they're still getting unidentified drones flying over New Jersey. They never stopped. They're, you know, you had the military and the Department of Homeland Security come out and lie brazenly, bizarrely, claiming that there weren't having drone incursions over military sites and sensitive sites. I have no idea why they did that in December, because we had so many reports from military base commanders that was occurring. And it was occurring in the United States. It's occurring in Britain. It's occurring now. Apparently, there's evidence of some of them in Japan. So certainly there's a number of mistaken identities, but obviously there's a lot of unidentified anomalous phenomena that people are reporting, credible people are reporting. Government is clearly sitting on a huge amount of secrets. I mean, that part we know for sure. So I think expectations are really high. I hope that the Trump nominees follow through on their promises and on President Trump's promises. I think we have to hold them accountable, because obviously some feathers are going to get ruffled in releasing those documents. But look, there's a huge amount of pent-up demand, as you said. I mean, it's Russiagate hoax, COVID origins, COVID vaccines, Hunter Biden laptop, UFOs, JFK, Epstein. So, I mean, I think the political advantage for Trump is just that when those files get released, it will discredit the establishment and it will solidify their majority.
Michael, doesn't it seem like we're living in a Jason Bourne movie? These are all of these topics. Just one of them is enough to be a movie where Jason Bourne is going to have the information, is going to release it, but everybody on the planet who's powerful is in on it, so they're going to kill him. I mean, this is epic kind of stuff that needs to be released. How much hope do you have that that Trump actually can and does release this stuff?
I mean, I have a lot of hope. I mean, in some ways, I think that it would be the best way for Trump to cement his trust, his status in history as somebody. I mean, he has the power to do that. He is going to get a huge legislative agenda through as well. But I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, we need to be able to trust law enforcement so that they can protect us and solve crimes and hold the bad guys account and capture the bad guys. So when you have this level of distrust, warranted distrust of the FBI, of law enforcement, an effort has to be made to restore that trust. And that starts with getting the bad news out. It's truth and reconciliation is more important than revenge, certainly. And I think people talk about enemies lists. Look, we just need to know the truth. That's the most important thing.
Yeah,
we can handle it.
Right. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
The UAP thing, what do you think the worst case is? That it's an alien life form that we're not really sure of, or that it's China? I mean, the best thing is we can find out that it's us. Okay, good. Fine. Why you lied to us, I don't know, but fine.
I mean, I'm skeptical that it's a foreign power. I just think it's too aggressive. I mean, when China threatens us, it's in the South China Sea. You know, we haven't caught a single one of these drones, which suggests that it's anomalous. It's certainly unidentified. I can't see Iran having this technology. It does appear to be behaving like other UAPs. And so, you know, I'm skeptical that it's a foreign power. It could be the United States government, but then we would have really advanced technology. And there's 1947 National Security Act, the Fourth Amendment. There's plenty of things. It would be illegal to be conducting a UAP experiment on the American people. So, yeah, look, I mean, I'm still a person of faith. I still have my faith. I don't imagine that somebody's going to say something that will undermine that. But obviously, there's some concern that if they are NHI, if they're non-human, then there's some sense in which people won't be able to handle it.
Oh,
you know, we're grown-ups. We were able to handle the reality the Earth revolves around the sun. I think we can handle the fact if that is what it is, and we don't know, but if that is what it is, we deserve to know.
Yeah.
It's our constitutional right to know.
Michael, it's going to be an interesting year. Thank you for being on. Good night, America, from Dallas.